What if everything we've been told about ADHD is wrong? Every day, millions of children are diagnosed with Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. But what if the real problem isn't in their brains, it's in their lunchboxes? Today, True Health Way will walk you through the surprising science behind ADHD, what mainstream medicine gets wrong, and how nutrition may hold the key to long-term healing. Stay with us. The truth behind ADHD diagnosis. ADHD is typically diagnosed using behavioral checklists. If a child fidgets, struggles to pay attention, talks excessively, loses focus, or has difficulty finishing tasks, they may be labeled with ADHD. But let's pause for a moment. Aren't these also common childhood traits? Energy, restlessness, curiosity, a short attention span, especially when children are sleep-deprived or poorly nourished. These behaviors are not always signs of a neurological disorder. More often, they are symptoms of a nervous system under stress, often triggered by poor nutrition, overstimulation, and unstable blood sugar. The limitations of ADHD medication. Rather than exploring root causes, the conventional approach often turns to medication first. Drugs like Adderall and Ritalin, which are chemically similar to amphetamines, are prescribed to millions of children. And while these medications can offer short-term symptom relief, the long-term benefits are questionable. A recent meta-analysis found that after 36 months, the cognitive benefits of Adderall faded to zero, while side effects such as aggression, emotional numbness, and insomnia persisted. Furthermore, there is no objective diagnostic test for ADHD, no brain scan, no blood test. Diagnoses are based on subjective assessments. In fact, ADHD was introduced into the medical literature by vote, not by biomarker discovery. Is ADHD really genetic? Many sources claim ADHD is genetic and therefore unavoidable. But here's what science tells us. Genes can be influenced. They're not fixed commands, they're switches, and those switches are heavily impacted by environment, stress, and most of all, nutrition. At True Health Way, we believe that what we're seeing isn't faulty genetics. It's faulty fuel. Especially in the prefrontal cortex, the region of the brain responsible for focus and impulse control, we often see metabolic dysfunction. The brain isn't getting the energy it needs to regulate itself. The real cause is food and deficiencies. Let's talk about what many overlook: food. We're not just talking about sugar. We're talking about ultra-processed snacks, refined carbohydrates, food, dyes, artificial sweeteners, MSG, and preservatives. These compounds overstimulate the nervous system, spike dopamine levels artificially, and deplete key nutrients. The result? A child who appears to be hyperactive, distracted, emotionally volatile, when in reality their brain is nutrient-starved and inflamed. Dopamine, for example, is the neurotransmitter responsible for motivation and focus. It's synthesized from the amino acid tyrosine, which is found in high-quality proteins like meat, fish, eggs, and cheese. Yet studies show that over 60% of a teenager's daily calories now come from junk food, not nutrient-dense protein. As a result, deficiencies in tyrosine, magnesium, zinc, vitamin B6, omega-3, fatty acids, and especially vitamin B1 thiamine become common, and these deficiencies can directly mimic or trigger the behavioral patterns associated with ADHD. The most overlooked nutrient, vitamin B1. Among all micronutrients, vitamin B1 thiamine is perhaps the most underappreciated in discussions about behavior, cognition, and energy regulation. B1 plays a key role in converting glucose into usable energy for the brain. Without sufficient B1, glucose accumulates, yet cannot be utilized, leaving the brain both overfed and starving at the same time. This paradox leads to symptoms such as brain fog, mood instability, irritability, and fatigue. Refined carbohydrates and sugars, which dominate the modern diet, rapidly deplete vitamin B1. And with B1 depletion, the brain's ability to produce acetylcholine, another neurotransmitter essential for attention and memory, is compromised. In fact, research has shown that a deficiency in B1 alone can produce symptoms that strongly resemble those of ADHD. The nutritional solution. At True Health Way, we believe that the most effective way to address attention-related challenges isn't through a prescription. It starts with nutrition. Clinical studies increasingly show that dietary change, when guided by science, can transform brain function. Here's what that looks like. Adopt a low-carbohydrate, nutrient-dense diet. Prioritize real whole foods that stabilize blood sugar and support steady brain energy. Reduce or eliminate processed grains, sugary snacks, and high glycemic foods. Remove dietary disruptors. Eliminate artificial sweeteners, preservatives, dyes, and additives. These substances burden the nervous system and disrupt neurotransmitter balance. Restore essential nutrients. Focus on foods naturally rich in tyrosine from fish, meat, eggs, and cheese, vitamin B6 and magnesium from leafy greens, seeds, and legumes, zinc from shellfish, beef nuts, omega-3 fatty acids, especially EPA and DHA from fatty fish, vitamin B1 from garlic, pork, and whole foods. Consider therapeutic dietary models. For some individuals, especially those with pronounced metabolic issues, a low glycemic or ketogenic diet may be beneficial. Ketones offer an alternative fuel source for the brain, reducing inflammation and bypassing glucose processing challenges. When the brain gets what it needs, it responds. When the brain receives the nutrients it needs consistently, behavior changes, focus improves, hyperactivity subsides, emotional balance returns. This isn't speculation. It's been observed in both clinical settings and published studies. Medication may play a role for some individuals, but the foundation of healing must begin with food. Because nutrition doesn't just feed the body, it shapes the brain. If you're a parent, teacher, or caregiver searching for practical, science-based solutions for attention challenges, start with nutrition. The body speaks through behavior, and often it's asking for better fuel. And if someone in your life is struggling with focus, energy, or behavior, share this video. Let's shift the ADHD conversation from disorder and despair to healing and hope. True Health Way is committed to providing science-backed strategies to support the brain, body, and whole-person wellness. To learn more about how to start a nutrient-dense, brain-supportive eating plan, check out the free resources linked in the description below. ADHD isn't a life sentence. It's often a signal, and the body is always speaking if we're willing to listen.